On the back of our Champions League disappointment and El Clasico disappointment, I just thought it would be really interesting to talk about some tactics that needs to be altered a little bit and some that needs to change even completely. I think it's like 4 points that I wanted to touch on in this video. But before we do, as always, guys, please do subscribe to the channel. It's going to help us a lot to get the family to grow. We upload weekly Barcelona content, and we are now on Facebook and TikTok as well. Links will be in the description. But let's get right into the video. First thing I want to talk about here is Lewandowski's false nine positioning. You know, when Barcelona is trying to build up from the back, you know, with the double pivot and everything, you have Gundogan, Raphinha, you know, Cancelo going up high. And then you see Lewandowski dropping to the side. And when the ball is moving around, I honestly think this is super unnecessary because Lewandowski is not that guy. When last have you heard about him causing trouble for Barcelona or for other teams? He played good in this position because PSG, he was very open, so he could move around. And I don't think it's necessary for him to do, especially because of the fact that we have Raphinha in this position right here. He's going to come inside. Lewandowski's just going to make the opposition come narrow, and then we have no space in the mid phase, right? So I don't know why Lewandowski is playing that position really. If Xavi really wants to do the false nine position, Ferran Torres or Joao Felix is the perfect player for this kind of thing. Lewandowski is not for that. One game he plays good, he's too inconsistent. If you want to make that a constant tactic, you need to use Ferran Torres. But for Ferran Torres to invert, Raphinha has to go out wide, and meaning Cancelo had to go back. Because once you have Raphinha and Ferran both going into the mid, Cancelo cannot really fully commit, especially against the bigger teams, because he has to worry about this winger right here. So that is why Raphinha has to stay wide. And also, if there's nobody coming down this wing, then when Ferran drops, or like with Lewandowski in that instance, players can easily follow them, and then the opposition can strictly keep the backline intact. But when you have Raphinha wide, or you have a winger there, nobody can really follow Ferran Torres. But at the same time, you need to have players like this in a normal false nine, because once somebody follows, then this guy can run in behind, and that is all you have to do, and that's how the false nine works. The reason why is because when Raphinha inverts, in order to bring balance, you need to have Joao Cancelo going up high. But more often than not, the bigger teams have great wingers, so Cancelo cannot really be fully committed, and that is why only 80% of his mistakes I blame him for, but at the same time, what he has to do doesn't help either, right? So Raphinha shouldn't be inverting because Cancelo cannot fully commit, so most of the time he will be halfway there. This is why I was saying when the inverting happens with Lewandowski, teams can follow. But at the same time, Raphinha needs to move now between these positions as well, because he's most of the time back, and we are kind of overworking him. So he should not be inverting into the midfield when we play the bigger teams, because of the commitment from Cancelo cannot be complete. If we play a smaller team that has like 2 defenders up front, then that's fine. But the bigger teams that has the great wingers, Cancelo he's more back than he goes forward, right? So Raphinha shouldn't be inverting in the bigger games. What I would rather have him do, this is just my suggestion, is have the likes of Frankie de Jong go up and let Cancelo rather invert into the midfield right here. Because with this, he can really cover the space more frequently, but at the same time, you're also accomplishing the fact that you have your double pivot. And you don't even need to pick Frankie de Jong. We're going to get to Frankie de Jong's positioning as well. But at the same time, the movement of Frankie de Jong, now you can have 3 players dropping into the space here, especially when we build up, right? You can have 3 players back, and it's going to be easier for Joao Cancelo to move around. And he has really proven himself as an inverted fullback. Why doesn't Xavi bring this back? Because we know Cancelo can do it. We know he can play good. So now at the same time, you can have Pedri there, you can have Fermin there, and then it's not going to be really necessary for Frankie to play either, because at times I feel like Frankie de Jong is really making the play a little bit slower. But at the same time, I don't know how you guys feel about that. You might want to crucify me again, but I think Cancelo would be much better inverting into the midfield in the bigger games. The double pivot seriously defeats the purpose of the Barcelona way and what Xavi is trying to do. If you want to have a double pivot, right? I'm just going to use Cancelo here for an example. You need a lot to go right for you. You need to, if they stay centrally, you need this guy to make and take advantage of everything that comes to him. You need this inverted player here. Let's say, for an example, this is Raphinha, right? This inverted player has to move around correctly. But at the same time, this is why I also suggest that Joao Cancelo should invert into the midfield in the bigger games, because look at Manchester City. They don't have a dedicated double pivot, meaning those two players will be stuck there. This centre back comes in when there's space. For example, if the pressure comes, then this player inverts and he's going to be all where the space is, right? This is why I'm saying that Joao Cancelo should really be the inverted player, right? So he can, let's say, for example, Rodrigo and Vinicius would have pressed centrally. Then you have Jude Bellingham. This is where Cancelo comes in, right? He can play in that space. He can stay out wide. He's only going to come in when there's space. So that is why we should really try the single pivot, you know? And that's why I suggested Joao Cancelo come in when there is space. But now if you have a dedicated double pivot, then teams can easily decide, okay, let's just sit on these two players, and then you cannot pass to them. So what's the point of having them if you cannot pass them? Yes, you're going to draw them centrally, but you need to be able to take advantage of that. Now, I do think that Xavi thinks with a double pivot, you have more space out wide, but I disagree with that. You have more space with a single pivot out wide than you have with a double pivot, because look at this. Well, let's take Real Madrid for an example. How on earth are they going to cover all of these players? Is Modric going out wide, meaning he leaves now Gundogan open, which then can drop into the space right there? Is he gonna stay with Gundogan and then Koundé is open? Is Vinny gonna press Koundé leaving Araujo open, or he's gonna press Araujo leaving Koundé open? Or if Frankie de Jong drops in here, is Valverde going to follow him, you know, leaving this space right here open? Or is he going to stay in his position there, and therefore he will keep Frankie de Jong open? So there's so much movement that can take place. But when you already have a double pivot in that position, you become static. And this is why I've been against the double pivot for all this time. Let's build up in a normal flat 4-3-3 with a single pivot, and now Frankie de Jong can run into the space. When he's moving into that space, Valverde has to follow him, and then you can have, boom, you have Joao Cancelo. Now you have a 2-on-1. When Cancelo comes down, now you have Raphinha inverting, and now we have movement. Same with Ferran Torres can come in. He can run in there. Ferran can come in here. Ferran can run in behind. Raphinha can go to the... There's just so many options with the single pivot and with the space. But when you have a dedicated double pivot, the guys now become static. That means Kubarsi has to go out wide, and then Joao Cancelo is far away from the build-up play. This is why Pep Guardiola is so successful. Because he has a single pivot, and in a build-up, then that pivot moves into space when the ball is moving and there's space to move into. So that is why I'm against the double pivot. We should play a single pivot against the bigger teams, because we're going to stretch them not horizontally but also vertically. Now this dude irritates the hell out of me in the build-up phase. I wish you guys could see me when I watch the game and he keeps the ball almost for like 5-6 seconds at a time. Like, honestly, how can you keep the ball for that long? And especially with a team, we are so slow. He slows us down so much. When the ball comes to him, it's almost like he's asking the opposition, guys, are you ready? Can we start again? Do you know how many times the opposition have a chance to reset and get into shape when this man has the ball? I mean, Xavi should talk to him, honestly. And don't forget Frankie de Jong. Listen, I'm not criticizing his abilities. However, the question is, does this man fit into the Barcelona team? And I've been thinking like this for all these times, but I don't know how you guys feel about this. But honestly, like another 5-6 seconds goes to waste when Frankie de Jong has the ball and he drops all over the place. Like, you defeat the purpose of positional play with a player like Frankie de Jong. But who am I? What do I know? But thank you guys for watching this video. I would like to know what do you guys think about Barcelona? What tactics should change? Because I feel we can play so much better if we change these things. And I know it's easier said than done, but at the same time, you have world-class players and you have everybody, you know. So do let me know, what do you think? Subscribe as always to the channel. It's going to help us a lot to get the family to grow. Don't forget, we're on TikTok and Facebook as well. But thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.